everyone. It's a beautiful day today and I'm a bit annoyed with myself because I designated today as a housewife day. And I was working in the garden yesterday and I glanced over at the rhubarb bed and I remembered I had rhubarb in the freezer. And when I investigated, I discovered I had blackcurrants and blackberries. So I'm having a housewife day today where I'm making some jam. I made blackcurrant jam last night and I'm making blackberry jam now. And I thought because I have a friend coming to visit, I may as well make some scones as well to accompany the jam. So I'm going to make the scones while the jam is simmering away. I just have to add some water and some sugar. So I've weighed my flour for the scones. I'll just tip that in there. I've 3 pounds of fruit in the pan and I'm going to measure out 3 pounds of sugar, and I'll put the recipes below. You know, jam has a lot of sugar in it, but nevertheless it is very nutritious. It contains vitamin C and potassium and antioxidants and minerals, and it's got fibre, of course, because you're putting in the whole fruits. So I always freeze fruit from the garden because we always end up with more than we can eat at the time. And sometimes I put the fruit into chutneys and into jams. And so this is a jam that I'm making at the moment. I really do love the blackberries, which I forage for up and down the road and around the garden. We've got bushes everywhere. And it's nice to do something creative as well. So making something makes me feel that I'm being creative. And just because it's a homemade jam, I'm going to add some lemon juice just to increase the pectin to make it set. I've got my lovely housewife apron on that Florence sent. So what I have is I've got 3 pounds of fruit. I've got 2 pints of water because the fruit, having been frozen, is very watery. And then I put in 3 pounds of sugar. So that is going to just sit. You see, like every other woman, I can do multiple tasks at one time. So while that is simmering away and coming up to the boil, I'll make the scones. And what I've got for the scones, I've got 8 ounces of self-raising flour. I'm going to add 2 ounces of butter, which I will then rub in. So the butter is 1 pound and I've measured it with my eyes. I've taken 2 ounces off. And then I'm going to add in just 1 ounce of sugar. So I'm just going to put in a little handful of sugar. I suppose scones are kind of an English recipe. There's lots of varieties of scones. You could have brown flour scones, you can have fruit scones, you can have plain scones, which means they don't have fruit. You could put an egg in as well to make them more light and fluffy. I think I might do that. And then you can have just fruit scones. That's what I'm going to make. I'm just going to put in about 1 ounce of sugar, which I estimate is about that. Maybe a little bit more. Because we're putting the jam on, so we don't want them to be too sweet. And there will be fruit in as well. So there we go. So today then, I've got a creative head on me for making jam and for making scones. And we've been making plans too. Yesterday we were in the polytunnel working away. And it's been entirely overrun with weeds, particularly couch grass, which is a nightmare to try to get rid of. But we've done a huge clearing job. And my lovely little sweet bay tree has erupted in growth because it's about 2 years since we've done anything in the polytunnel because the plastic had been damaged, and then with the weather we couldn't get it replaced until the end of last summer. So we're trying to get it back up to back up to a place where we can put in our seedlings this year when they arrive. So I trimmed down the bay tree yesterday and I have lots of branches there which will go into lavender bags, which will go into the linen press and into the where I keep towels and things, because they make wonderful moth repellents and insect repellents, and they keep your clothes and your linen lovely and fresh. You could also put in some dried citrus fruit peel as well. So I'll be making those bags later today after I finish here. Just have a quick check the jam. So the sugar is all dissolved, it's simmering away, and once it comes to the boil, we'll boil it up and then we can test for whether the jam is ready to be set. So another thing I like to put into scones is some mixed spice. So I'm just making a well in the flour, putting in the egg. I stir that in. And then we just put in a couple of ounces of milk just to pull all the flour together and form the dough. So now I have my dough and I'm going to roll it out. I'm just going to brush the tops with some milk just to help them become more golden brown, look more appealing. And now into the oven. So the scones are in the oven, the jam looks as if it's almost ready, so I'm going to test it. And to do that, I've put a little plate into the freezer, which I'll get now. Oh, that is cold. So to test it, you put a little teaspoon of the jam onto the plate. We'll leave it a couple of minutes and then we'll do the wrinkle test. Okay, so a couple of minutes later, to do the wrinkle test, all you do is you just touch the surface of this jam on this spoonful of jam, and there should be a very tiny, thin little skin on it that will wrinkle up. So that's not wrinkling yet, so we need to leave it a little bit longer and we'll try again. So the setting test didn't work on the other plate, so I have another plate here out of the freezer again, and it's working this time because, as you can see, the jam isn't moving, it's not running, so it's setting. So now I cannot find my jam sieve anywhere, my jam funnel rather, so I'm just using an ordinary funnel today. I don't know, I've looked everywhere for it, can't find it. probably turn up tomorrow somewhere. So I've moved the jam off, you know, the heat, so it's kind of settled down a little bit. And now I'm just going to funnel it into these jars. And these are mustard jars. And I've removed the labels from some of them. They're different brands, but it's just a brilliant way to use these little crock pots. They're for preserves because they had a mustard in. And they're so lovely, you don't want to throw them away. And we have loads of them dotted around the house with pens in them and pencils, and we use them as a little bud vase occasionally. We use them for lots of different things. But it's better, I think, to just use them for preserves. And I've retained all the cork lids as well. First jar is filled, and I'm going to put the cap on with a little piece of baking paper underneath. These were all sterilised in the oven to make sure they're completely clean and there's no risk of contamination. Okay, so all I have left to do now is make the rhubarb jam. I think I'll put some ginger through it, but in between I'm going to have a quick cup of tea and try one of the scones. Save the rest for when my friend comes later. This is the blackcurrant jam that I made yesterday. The scones are a little bit small. They didn't rise as much as I expected, but they're lovely and fluffy inside and have a lovely crispy outside, as I like them. Just to remind you as well that the herb bundle is still on a special offer until the 1st of February. I hope you have a great week, and I'm just going to squeeze this in between jobs, so I'll see you next week. Oops, I'll go for this one first. See you next week. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website danusirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the weed handbooks and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.